Australia, you need to get ready for another battle. Yes, I know, another bloody battle. After bushfires and then coronavirus, the next battle is displeasing China, the cost of which could potentially be billions and many thousands of jobs. Today, we got yet another example after yesterday's of a potential tariff of 80% on barley products, that they have decided to suspend imports from 4 separate abattoirs. Now, amazingly, one of these abattoirs China already owns. Trudy McIntosh with a bit of detail, and I'll explain why this is going to get worse, not better.
Cattle trucks roll into Toowoomba's Beef City abattoir. It's a world away from Beijing, but now thrust into the centre of the escalating trade tensions with China. It's one of 4 Australian meatworks now prevented from exporting beef to China amid questionable concerns over labelling and health certificate requirements. China is Australia's #1 market for beef by volume, accounting for around 30% of exports. But the Commonwealth itself has been kept busy by Beijing, who are poised to impose tariffs as high as 80% on Australian barley from next week.
Now, we know all of this is a get square because we, God forbid, said that there should be an independent international inquiry into the virus that clearly started in Wuhan and spread around the world, costing almost 300,000 people their lives, the global economy $6 trillion, and tens of millions, nay, probably a couple of 100 million people have lost their jobs around the world. Well, state media is now saying that the threat is going to get even worse. An opinion that was released today, again in state-run media in China, is that if China-US ties continue to deteriorate, the uncertainty surrounding China-Australian relations will also deteriorate. Such uncertainty will inevitably lead to economic repercussions, and it now seems necessary to advise Chinese people and companies to watch out for potential risks when it comes to doing business or studying in Australia. Now, all of this is a threat because if they can cripple Australia, then they can hold our corpse up as an example of what they could do to the UK, to the EU, or to the United States. In an election year in the United States, that would be even more powerful. But again, Australia can't buckle because of this stuff. Now, Australia can only ever nip at the heels, historically speaking, of a country like China. But we also can't allow them to dictate how we run our system, about whether or not you are held accountable for your own actions, about how displeasing them includes suggesting that the World Health Organization, which effectively does China's bidding, should have global inspectors who have the same power as weapons inspectors who can go into rogue states and work out if people are about to dump nuclear weapons. The battle in Australia is going to require something that a lot of us talk a big game about, but don't necessarily actually do. I'll get to Penny Wong in a sec, but let me make this point, which is that we like to say that we will defend our country no matter the cost. We like to say on Anzac Day that they fought for freedom. We like to say that we're a country that is among the first world responders to the concept of right and wrong. There are going to be many people who have made an awful lot of money out of the relationship with China who are going to be the first to speak with their wallet, not with their national interest, who are going to tell us that really we should simmer things down, we should manage the relationship, which is code for shut up, and do what they want to do. Now that means that yes, potentially, if all of China's threats come true, there will be tens of billions of dollars that will be torn from the Australian economy. No one wants that to happen, but that's their threat. There are thousands of jobs that are located either in the university sector or in the tourism sector, and I don't want them to lose their job either. But we have to know what we are dealing with. We have to know that it's not time to buckle. That doesn't mean that we're about to drop bombs or do something stupid and start trade wars. But it means you have to hold the line when it comes to someone surely being held accountable to at least let us work out what went wrong. Did it come from the wet market? Did it come from the lab? Did it come from somewhere else and only blew up in China? We have to know. Because the inevitability of this world is that there will be another pandemic. It might be one that could start in the Middle East, in Africa, in Asia, in Australia, in the United States, Antarctica, whatever. But to be able to take it on, we have to be able to understand what went wrong this time. And already, just 1 week after restrictions started to get lifted, one side of Australian politics is already buckling. Cue Penny Wong for a second time here. She talks about this being a relationship that the government needs to manage more sensibly. Code, don't displease China. Regrettably, too much of our relationship, she goes on to say, has been led by backbenchers. We need to think about the China relationship in 30-year terms, not in 3-year terms. Unfortunately, there's been a little too much from the Morrison government of a reflex to short-term domestic politics on this relationship. The federal government is standing up and saying, something ruined our economy. Something destroyed people's lives. In the same way that we would owe it to the victims of a terrorist attack, we owe it to the victims of this virus to work out how it started, how it spread, and how we can stop the next one from happening. Think about it in 30-year terms. Well, that, of course, means China gets to keep doing whatever they want with no one pushing back. So here comes the test for Australia, for our politicians, for our billionaires, for our media, and yes, for our governments. Where will you draw the line? Because I don't know about you. I'm going to draw the line at the handling of a virus that has killed 300,000 people and destroyed a world's economy. I don't want to see anyone in China arrested. I don't want them to pay reparations. I just want them to tell us what really happened. And that is what is part of being a first world nation. The man who signed the free trade agreement with China was Tony Abbott. This is what he had to say today.
We see China in commercial terms. They see us in political terms. In fact, being a communist totalitarian state, they see everything in political terms. And we need to remember that while we trade with them, fine. While we have all sorts of collaborations with them, fine. They are trying to get leverage out of them far beyond the merely commercial. So we have to appreciate that China is a country unlike any other.
Standing up to a bully in any of their forms at any time in our lives is dangerous because they might take a swing at you and they might knock you out. But completely giving in to that bully is devastating for everyone, every time.